Hey gang, this video is brought to you by my lovely Patreons. Thank you gang for supporting the channel. I super appreciate it. One of the Patreons, Pater Music, asked me, I want to get that Dan Huff Kasha Rockmod tone. What should I get? And I had to think about it because I hadn't really plugged into the Rockmod in a while, so I wanted to give it a go. Let's back up a little bit so I can tell you a bit about that Rockmod. The Kasha brand was started in the late 80s from John Kasha, who was an LA guitar amp modifier based out of one of my favorite stores as a kid, ABK Rocks. I remember going into that store and seeing the guitars hanging there and just being like, oh, this is so amazing if I could just touch that. Having no idea that John Kasha was modding amps there. Now the famousness comes from the Rockmod preamp being in Dan Huff's rack, and you look through his rack and you're like, oh, what's that? That's gotta be the tone. Maybe, I don't know, because it can't be that Marshall, but the Marshall was modified by Mike Soldano, so maybe it was that Marshall. Who knows? Now, a friend of mine actually asked Dan about the Rockmod, and it sounded like it was maybe not used as much as I had thought. But I believe it actually made it into Dan Huff's the band Giant, touring rack, along with the Mesa Quad preamp. So, it must have been used, right? And there are things about the Kasha Rockmod preamp that sound like Dan recordings to me. So I'm going with it was used a bunch. That's what I'm going with. So it's a 2-channel preamp with 2 master volumes. The clean channel is actually my favorite thing on it. It's beautiful, very Mesa Boogie Studio preamp. It competes against that, which is high marks, The lead channel is tough to dial in for crunch. I'll show you that. And for leads, it does a really great soaring thing, but I wouldn't say it's a huge sound. It's a little scooped, it's a little like bitey. It's kind of an old school, almost heavy metal sound, which, maybe that was the deal. And it did fit in with these productions where you needed that biting, kind of really edgy lead tone. When you have all these keyboards and you're drenching in reverb and stuff like in that opening track, I threw everything I had on everything. I was like, TC 1210s, Eventides, Lexicons, Percastes. So I drenched this stuff and it holds it well. So it sounds cool. It gives a nice bite and it soars. It feels good to play through. So let me run you through a couple tones. And, at the end, I'll tell you what I think you should get if you're looking for that Dan Huff Kasha Rockmod tone. Hey, by the way, Dan has a new solo guitar album coming out. Dreams come true, right? This is amazing that this is happening. I'll put some links below. All I know so far is that there's an email sign up that I did yesterday. So I have nothing to do with the album whatsoever, but just supporting the cause. I'll put an email link below and you could sign up and get his album because you should. Forgive the gargantuan fan noise, rack fan from the 2150. So, of course, Tyler guitars, because Dan has all that cool mumbo jumbo switchy stuff going on down there as well. I'm going through the clean channel. It's kind of hefty sounding, but if you split just one of the pickups, it opens up. Split 2 of them. And then you activate the onboard preamp. And that transforms the sound, right? It's gonna give you all of those great 80s clean tones because it's kind of just, you know, like a Twin or a Mesa Boogie. I hate to continuously compare it, but you know, it's a great, we'll call it a great Kasha clean tone. It's really lovely. All right, so there's two gain controls, gain and post gain. I don't really know what that means. Two masters. They seem to bleed into each other. Or maybe they're just both active because of its old unit and it's been changed. I don't really know. The inherent tone is a big, woolly... I would say better for leads than crunch stuff, although you could back the gains off and it does tighten up a bit. But then there's sort of a Cocteau, Michael Schenker kind of mid-range that pokes out. That's not too bad. This is really killer preamp for leads. Crank it all the way up, and it has that soaring, singing quality to the notes, big fat notes. That's like my version of Jack Butler at the end of Crossroads. I just can't. I quit. So if you want that Dan Huff preamp tone, what should you get? Well, you could try and find a Rockmod. There's a Rockmod 2, which has 2 rows of EQ. John Kasha still makes amps. He's still innovating. He's got a whole line of amps. But for me, I would go with a Soldano Astro. It's got a beautiful clean tone. You've got a great crunch tone, and you have that amazing lead tone. It does everything, and I mean, it's got everything built in. It's such a versatile box, but it'll do all of that Dan Huff stuff, and it has that Soldano legacy because Soldano Marshall was one of his main, I should say Soldano modded Marshall was one of his main studio tools. If you're feeling preampy, you could always go with the Soldano X88 IR. I think that's an awesome option. You know, Dan used the Mesa Quad preamp, so you could always get into a Mark V also. You could dial that in for some really nice Dan Huff giant tones as well. So there you go. Check out my Patreon if you're interested in getting the backing tracks for the songs I do and stuff like that, and we can chat more over there. Thanks for watching. We'll see you later.